Ladies and gentlemen, was all the advocacy that we've done for Israel, supporting Israel, being on Israel's side, a big mistake? We're going to dive deep into that today. I'm Tal the Traveling Clot, your favorite Zionist prince, sweet Zionist prince. You could be a sweet Zionist prince or princess just like me by getting the merch down below in the description. And let's jump into this video by Oren from travelingisrael.com. If you don't know his channel, incredible channel. Guys, an absolute beast. Big inspiration from him, and let's watch this video.
I defended Israel for 2 years, and I was wrong. That was a big mistake. I talked about history, facts, and values. I explained Israel's position rationally. But I was wrong. This isn't about Israel, and it is not even about the Palestinians. I will give some good examples in a moment. But first, let me say what this is really about. It's about the protesters themselves. They don't want to understand the conflict. They want to feel good about themselves. It's about guilt, about how they want to be seen, about their desire to belong to something. And that's where the focus should be. The Hague movement, the anti-Zionist movement they are part of. When I defended Israel, I placed myself exactly where they want me. They spread a libel, and I responded by explaining, defending, justifying. But they are not here to discuss facts or history. It's all about them. They believe they are part of a liberation movement, a new justice movement, that they are heroes. We need to expose them. Expose that they are, in fact, part of a century-old movement of hatred that has always used libels to demonize Jews. You can see the hatred in every move they make. Even now, they called for a ceasefire. And when there is a ceasefire, the violent demonstrations continue, and Jews are attacked and murdered around the world. Let's expose them. You can view their worldview as a triangle. The oppressor, Israel, the oppressed, the Palestinians, and the savior themselves. Sounds simplistic and narcissistic? You're right. Take Greta, for example. She is a climate activist. What does she have to do with this conflict? It's her desire to appear as a hero, a savior, to stay in the spotlight.
Absolutely.
Notice that no one in the media asked her about that. No one questioned her motives. That's her role, to be a hero. When the topic is climate, she's a climate hero. When it is Gaza, she's a Gaza hero. Notice how naturally the media accepts that. Another example is actress Hannah Einbinder, who goes on stage and shouts, "Free Palestine." What is she really saying? Look at me, see me, look at me. I'm a hero. Pure virtue signaling. And what makes her a hero in her own eyes and the eyes of her followers? It is not her deeds, but the scale of the crimes that she accused Israel of. She's not donating money or volunteering with children with cancer in her neighborhood. No, she's against genocide. She's against ethnic cleansing. She's against apartheid. She's a hero, a savior. But by accusing Israel of the gravest imaginable crimes, genocide, apartheid, and ethnic cleansing, they make it easier to ignore the real crimes of the Palestinians: the absence of democracy, freedom of speech, and freedom of religion. Hamas issued a law stating that unmarried women can't leave their homes without a male guardian's permission. Hamas executed hundreds of Gazans in the last few weeks and routinely kills gay people. But that's small change compared to the genocide libel. And here is a mistake I made many times myself. I used to say that it is absurd that gay men and lesbian and queer people like Hannah Einbinder support the Palestinians because Palestinians would kill them. By my logic, reasonable people wouldn't support those who would murder them. And it says something really bad about societies that imprison or kill people for their sexual orientation. But according to their logic, the very fact that they support people who would kill them makes them feel even better about
Yeah, it's
themselves.
true.
Look, I'm not selfish. I stand with the people who would kill me. I'm the hero willing to sacrifice myself for the cause. A martyr. Of course, if they spend 2 days in Gaza, they would change their minds. But we're not talking about facts, Israel or Muslim societies here. We're talking about their emotional world. That's what matters. How they feel about themselves. Here we reach a critical point. In earlier videos, I used the example that Jews are the canary in the coal mine. The Jews are a non-violent minority that succeeds and is very sensitive to social change. When things are good for Jews, society flourishes. When things are bad for Jews and Jews leave, that says something bad about that society. I didn't invent that image. But I have another image I did invent. Jews are like a laundry basket for dirty laundry. You take your stinking underwear, and before you jump into the shower to clean yourself, you throw it in the Jewish basket. And that basket is big enough for all your dirtiest, smelliest laundry. Socks,
That's true.
underwear, undershirts, sheets, and it doesn't matter what the stain is: sweat, blood, guilt, shame, anger, fear. Just throw it in the Jewish basket. Let's anchor this in reality. In the last 2 years, during the war in Gaza, terrible things have happened around the world. In Syria and Yemen, children are literally dying of hunger. Jihadist militants in Africa are slaughtering tens of thousands of Christians. There is mass killing in Sudan. Every example I've given is many times larger than what happens in Gaza, but nobody cares. One conflict, however, drew endless headlines: the war between Russia and Ukraine. There were protests, too, but they were calm. I never heard of American students supporting Ukraine attacking a Russian Orthodox church, or pro Russian supporters in Canada preventing Ukrainian students from entering campuses. You don't see that rage we see in protests against Israel. No one calling to abolish the Russian or Ukrainian state. Because again, in the case of Israel, it's not about Israel and it is not about the Palestinians. It's about the protests' emotions, their anger, their guilt, their inner conflicts. If a young American feels guilty for being white and privileged, believing he lives on a stolen native land, fine. If he truly believes that, he can give back his parents' house to the indigenous people and return to the country his ancestors came from.
Owen is 1000% correct. Now, if you want to hear the end of this video, I recommend right now you head over to his channel, travelingisrael.com. He's incredible. He's been doing God's work throughout the war. He really is. He's an incredible, credible speaker, not just for Israel, for the Jewish people, but just to give more context on this, on these situations that we live in here in the Middle East. And I'll say, this is the biggest thing that has always been my aspect in why I stopped doing the whole defense of Israel shtick. And I think Owen understands this as well, maybe even better than I do. It doesn't work. The whole defending Israel thing, it's never been a strategy that has worked well for us. And more so, pointing out the hypocrisy on their side and deflecting always is probably the best strategy. Because if you can shame the other side into understanding just truly how hypocritical they have been, and they continue to be, we may actually be able to make an impact. When you look at the numbers, the stats of who is dying in the millions across the Middle East and Africa, and how many of them are Muslim, and how there are zero protests on the streets for Sudan, zero protests for the Christians in Nigeria, and just always this hyperfixation on the Jews in Israel, you realize that your intentions are not genuine, and no one's taking you seriously. I always give the perspective when I talk to Arabs about this too, and they always agree with this too. And no Arab has ever denied me this claim, and I think it's the most powerful thing. When the Ashkenazi Jews developed the state of Israel, right? The European Jews came to Israel. They set it up. They established it in the legal framework. What was the first thing that they did? The first thing they did was, it's like a rally race. They tapped in the Mizrahi Jews to come and live with them, to protect them. And they fought wars together. They survived together. They settled the land together, redeveloped the land together. right? So if it wasn't for the Ashkenazi Jews who came here, the Mizrahis probably wouldn't have come here in the big waves that they did, because there was no place to allocate them. We probably would have all just been wiped out in the Middle East. That was the plan by the Arab Muslim supremacists, by the fascists. What did the Mizrahi Jews do when they arrived here? They advocated, specifically the Iraqi rabbi, Rabbi Ovadia Yosef. He advocated or gave the final demarcation that Ethiopian Jews were real Jews. And so then the Ashkenazi Jews and the Mizrahi Jews tapped in the Ethiopians to come in. And then once the Ethiopians were here, we started advocating for the Bnei Menashe from India and the Chinese. And it didn't happen exactly chronologically like that, but that's the whole concept. It's like the team helps out another. What do you see on the other side in the Arab world? Gaza's going through a genocide, an ethnic cleansing. 2 million people in a tiny piece of land. They have a border with Egypt. They could allow all of them safety right now. What do? No. Stay there, die. Stay there and die for us. The Arab world has hundreds of millions of square miles of land, an endless amount of money, 400 million people, 2 billion Muslims, 53 countries. And the way that they perceived helping Gaza was, you stay there and die for us. Die for Palestine. It tells you everything about the cause, yeah? It tells you how much of a sham it is. When the Jews were... Go find me a Jew that was abandoned by a fellow Jew in the creation of the State of Israel. It's not often that it happened. There's always been this sort of big, large-scale attempt to try to help as many Jews as possible around the world because we're family. If the Arab world actually treated itself as a real family and the Muslims actually treated themselves as a real ummah, you wouldn't see this scenario ever develop of, hey, die for me. Die for Palestine. I want you to die now to prove a point to the world that this is Arab land. It wouldn't be worth it. It's not worth it. But that's a hypocrisy. And I appreciate Oren from Traveling Israel so much. I'll see you guys in the next one. I love you a long time. Goodbye, Klats.
Has this ever happened to you? Hey, are you a Zionist? What is this hesitation? You think Judah the Maccabee was hesitating when he's fighting for Israel? Here, take this. Do you think Queen Esther hesitated before stopping Haman from ending the Jews of Persia? Well, hey Habibi, you think Herzl thought he was a white colonizer as he Zionized the Jews of Europa? Listen, kid, I don't care if you're a Muslim, a Jew, or a Christian. You're a Zionist, right? Yeah. Well, a good Zionist goes to thetravelingclad.com and buys some provocative merchandise. They do? Absolutely, a pinch of... I have some incredible designs for you, Yeled. They say everything promised to you 3,000 years ago. Here, take a shirt with a matching hat. For you, good price. They say they kick you from 109 countries. Here, join the 109 club. Take shirt and matching hat. For you, good price. Habibi, you want to Zionize? Here, take shirt, matching hat. You like Kuba Selek shel Safta? Here, take shirt, matching hat. Take sticker, take hoodie. Take, good price, take, good price, take, good price, take, good price, take. Yossi, achi, he understand you, stop! A good Zionist goes to thetravelingclad.com and buys merch. Yalla, Habibi, for you, good price.
If you don't want to buy any merchandise, the best way to support me is by donating on Buy Me a Coffee, my PayPal, or becoming a member on my Patreon. Your support is very much needed and very much appreciated. Thank you.